Hi guys, we welcome you all to this amazing video on cybersecurity interview questions. So we are continuing with our series of interview questions and the topic for the day is cybersecurity. So in this video, through interview questions, we are going to cover various concepts such as cybersecurity fundamentals, cybersecurity concepts, security architecture principles, cryptography fundamentals, security of networks, system, application and data, incident response, security implications, and adaptation of evolving technology, and much more. So this is a broad overview of the topics that we are going to cover in this video using the interview questions. So let's get started. And before moving ahead, I want you guys to subscribe to MindMajix YouTube channel and also hit the bell icon so that you never miss an update from us. So without any further delay, let's get started.
Cybersecurity fundamentals. So the first question is, what is a three-way handshake? So the answer for three-way handshake, you should be very precise like this. It is a method through which a TCP connection is stabilized between two clients or two entities. It includes or involves sending of SYN packet from client to server. Then server responds with SYN, synchronous and ACK acknowledgement packet. Further, if the client gets these two packets, that means the server is allowing the connection. Then client sends the acknowledgement packet and the connection is established. Next, what is CIA Triad? CIA Triad is standing for confidentiality, integrity, and availability. These are the three pillars you can say into the cybersecurity on which entire cybersecurity is based. We have to just secure these three things whenever it comes to cybersecurity. We have to make all the resources confidential, maintain all the integrity, and you have to make resources available to the legitimate users. When we were talking about CIA triad, if there is further asking by the interview, sometimes they do. They'll ask what is confidentiality, what is integrity, and what is availability. Try to be as precise as possible and take some example. Okay. For example, if I have to give this, okay, so I will tell him to consider an environment in which there are two guys or two individuals, Alice and Bob. They want to talk to each other. They want to create a good connection between them and share file, the FTP connection. So confidentiality is something that will keep that file secret, that no one knows about what data is inside that uh, file except Alice and Bob. Integrity is the completeness of the data. That means there is no modification or alteration in the file uh, in between the sending of Alice and receiving of Bob. Last, availability, that whenever Bob needs it, it is available for Bob to download it from the licensed computer. Next, which of the following refers to exploring the appropriate ethical behaviors related to the online environment and digital media platform? So the first thing that you can understand by this is it will take your analytical thinking until then you can easily answer this. The options are cyber laws, cyber ethics, cyber security, and cyber safety. B1 is correct answer, cyber ethics. Fourth question, what is data leakage? See, you can answer this very easily from your daily life. Just like water leakage is when a glass is full or and there is a hole at the bottom, the water will leak from there. Exactly the same thing is data leakage. You will have to answer it like in some cases, the data storing capacity or sometimes the web who is responsible for the interaction with the storage possess some of the vulnerability which are exploited by the attackers and some amount of data is leaked or stolen. It is also known as data exfiltration. Next question is Nmap is abbreviated as network mapper. True or false? So answer is A. Next one is which flag is for advanced aggressive scan in Nmap? Hyphen SS, hyphen SV, hyphen O, and hyphen A. Okay, so hyphen SS stands for thin scan or stealth scan, you can say. Hyphen B stands for version enumeration. Hyphen O is for giving an output where you want to store the file. And this time hyphen capital O is for OS scan. And then -A is for advanced and aggressive scan. Therefore, our answer is -A. Next, which of the following Nmap do not check? A. Services different hosts are offering, on what OS they are running, what kind of firewall in use, what type of antivirus is in use. If we remember from our past experience when we used Nmap, the service enumeration is the main thing that Nmap offers. Even it has a different flag, -SV for it. Same is with operating systems, -O is available for searching for OS. Next are firewall and antivirus. If you remember, we are having the firewall evasion techniques in Nmap as I discussed. So the only option left is antivirus. I have never seen finding of antiviruses by Nmap. So the option D is correct. Next question is which flag of gobuster is for setting extensions? -U, -W, -X, and -E. If you remember, -U was giving for the target URL, -W was for word list, -X for file extensions, and -E for enumeration. In this case, -X is the correct answer because -X stands for extensions. What is subdomain enumeration? So when we try to find all the subdomains of a particular website, it is known as subdomain enumeration. It may be one level, two level, or three level, or multi-level subdomains. Next, what is subdomain actually? You can understand this by an example. Let us suppose there is a company A which offers multiple services, but it is not possible to provide all the services from single domain itself. And if you're going to purchase multiple domains for it, then they may get confused. In that case, to make it efficient as well as worthy for everyone, we divide the domains into subdomains. For example, there is a domain which is facebook.com. It can have multiple subdomains such as india.facebook.com, uk.facebook.com, data.facebook.com, graph.facebook.com, phonenumber.facebook.com, and many more. So, as per the requirement, user can connect to that subdomain. Next is what is DNS. DNS stands for Domain Name System and it is responsible for ARP and RARP. It is responsible for giving you the IP address or the physical address of a particular website by which you can connect to them or find the response from them because you learn the names instead of their IP addresses. Next, why cybersecurity? This is the most trickiest question that an interviewer is going to ask you. Why are you into the cybersecurity? So, as per me, I'll answer that this is something that fascinates me a lot. This is something that I never get bored of. Point three, I love to explore everything, whether I can exploit them or not. And if I can exploit them, how will I secure that no one else can exploit it? Fourth, I like challenges, and cybersecurity is one of the most challenging field that we can mark right now. And there are tons of other reasons that I am into the cybersecurity. Next question is why do we need cybersecurity? The interviewer is going to ask you why the organization needs this cybersecurity. So your answer could be you are going to tell him that every organization has some brand value and reputational values. If there is some breach of the data from the organization or there is defacement, it leads to reputational damage, which ultimately leads to market loss of the particular organization. It will lose the brand value, hence it is going to lose its value itself, even if it is product based or service based. In order to secure you from most basic attacks, you need cybersecurity. Otherwise, even the script kiddies or skiddies, the teenagers, they can also come to your organization, exploit it, and steal the data. Next, what are the types of hackers? I think this much time is enough. So there are three types of hackers, as you remember: white, gray, and black. If someone asks you who are they, you have to just tell them black hat, no permissions. They go for as rough as possible, as illegal things as possible. Gray, sometimes legal, sometimes illegal. White, completely legal. Then, what are the phases of ethical hacking? If you remember, we discussed about 5 phases of ethical hacking. It is what you have to answer here: reconnaissance, scanning, exploitation, persistence, and the last one is removing tracks. Next, the another tricky question that they can ask you is what kind of hacker you are. Make sure you always answer white hat hacker, because if you're going to answer any other type of hacker, the company is not going to pay focus on you, or they are not be willing to hire you, because they will see, what do we say, a kind of malicious insider within their own organization in your form. Next question could be, what type of hacking fascinates you more? You have three types of hackers. Which of the following types you like the most? Always try to answer white hat, because if other type of hacking activities fascinates you, that means you are again standing at the role of inside malicious insider. Next, one main difference between TCP and UDP. You do not have to give multiple differences. The main difference you have to give between TCP and UDP. So you can say that TCP is connection based, whereas UDP is connectionless. That's it. It is the main difference. Next, what is VAPT and difference if there any exist? Okay, so VAPT are the two different profiles: vulnerability assessment and penetration testing. Both are a little different. Meanwhile, they follow nearly same steps, but they are a little different. The role of a VA is to find all the possible vulnerabilities that can be exploited by an attacker. So this is called VA. But when we talk about PT, it stands for any kind of penetration that any attacker can do, and they have to perform it. On now, their reports are only validated if they were able to penetrate into the network. Their role is to penetrate into it. That is the key difference between VA and PT. Cybersecurity concepts. What is access? Option A, function of an object, information flow from objects to subjects, unrestricted admittance of subject on a system, admiration of ACLs. So option B is correct in this case. Information flow from objects to subjects. Which of the following is true? A subject is always a user account. The subject is always the entity that provides or hosts the information or data. The subject is always the entity that receives information about or data from the object. A single entity can never change roles between subject and object. So the answer is C, because the subject is always allowed to receive information about the or the data from the object. Which of the following types of access control uses fences, security policies, security awareness training, and antivirus software to stop an unwanted or unauthorized activity from occurring? A. Preventive, B. Defective, C. Corrective, and D. Authoritative. I'll discuss this one a little, because you need to understand the difference between them, because not each time they are going to ask you in the form of MCQ. Sometimes they will be asking you what is preventive, what is detective, what is corrective, and what is authoritative access controls. So when we talk about, we'll start from the D, authoritative. Authoritative represents the authorization level that you give to someone. That control level is called authoritative and access control. Then corrective. In this, the controls, they are responsible for correcting any event causing any problem to the operations. Second one is detective. Their role is to just detect what is the problem and report it to the concerned person. They do not take any action by their own. A. Preventive is the action in which we try to prevent the incident before it happens. Now, fences, security policies, security awareness trainings, all these antivirus softwares are type of preventive measures, because if you're creating a fence, you want to not let anyone enter your infrastructure without your permission. That's why you're creating those fences. Again, you are training your employees. That is because you don't want either of your employees to get exploited insider. You are creating security policies so that no one is going to break those rules and regulations in order to save them from the lawsuits. Antivirus softwares, they are installed such in case that if a virus enters into your device, they are not able to withstand in your device. They are removed by the antivirus software. What is the first step of access control? Accountability login, ACL verification, subject authorization, and subject identification. Option D is correct. Subject identification. As I already informed you, you need to categorize and identify all the subjects in order to implement any type of access control. Next question is, dash access control rely upon the use of labels: discretionary, role-based, mandatory, and non-discretionary. In this case, the answer is C, mandatory access controls, because they are responsible for creating labels that the particular label decides what is the access control level or the access level the particular user has. Next, what are the goals of configuration management process? It is a objective question. Sorry, it is a subjective question. You need to answer it into points. So when we talk about goals of configuration management processes, there are you can call it as 7 categories or 7 top points in which I have made them. You can create it into modes, but major are just 7. First one is you have in order to revise capability, improve performance, reliability or maintainability, extend life, reduce cost, reduce risk and liability, correct defect. Next one is, what is the difference between asset management and configuration management? When we talk about asset management, we are concerned with the finances, but when we talk about configuration management, we are concerned with the operations. In asset management, scope is everything that an individual own or you own or in your organization own. But in configuration management, everything that you deploy is scope. When we talk about asset management, or we'll call it as AM, when we talk about AM, interfaces to purchasing and leasing is available. But when we talk about CM, interfaces to ITIL processes are only available. When we talk about AM, we have life cycles from purchase to disposal, but we have a life cycle from deploy to retirement in CM. AM is only incidental relationship, whereas CM is all operational relationships. Next, what is Puppet? So what is a Puppet? Puppet is just a configuration management tool ensuring that all systems are configured to a desired and predictable state. You can also use Puppet as a deployment tool, as it can automatically deploy software on the system. Puppet implements infrastructure as a code, which means you can test the environment and ensure that it is deployed accurately. The Puppet environment can be broken down into the main server environment or the client environment. In the main server environment, there is a Puppet master store, which stores all the configuration files. Next, what is Ansible work? Ansible is very important thing that I haven't introduced with. When we talk about DevOps, Ansible stands a lot of power. It is responsible also for automations in some cases. Ansible works under 2 different types of servers. One is nodes and other one is the controlling machine. The controlling machine is the platform where Ansible is installed. On the other side, controlling machine controls the nodes through SSH. Besides, the inventory file holds the node's location. The tool deploys modules on a node by initiating the playbook. As it is agentless, so you do not need to use any other tool to control the process. Next question is, what is the following not typically part of a patch version or number? Major build number, patch number, developer name, and minor build number. If you have answered C, developer name, then congratulations, you are correct, because these are not the part of the patch version number. Next, which is the recommended method for deploying patches? Just deploy them whenever you have an patch update. Don't bother patching, you don't need to make any kind of patches. Quick test, then deploy to all. One, sum, and many approach. If you have answered D, you're correct. One, sum, and many approach is correct. What it refers to is, whenever it is required as per the requirement, update your device with the patches. Make sure that you do not leave patches unupdated for longer time. Next question is, true or false? Microsoft is the only system that needs to keep kept up to date with patches. Like only Windows need to up to date tell patches, or there is anything else that we could talk about in this case. So the answer is false. Everyone needs to stay up to date. Every company, every product needs to be up to date. Next question is, why the patch management is a critical component to maintaining security, maintaining functionality, adding functionality, mitigation, or all of the above? The answer is all of the above. As you might have guessed by now that all the other features are part of patch management. Next, what does ACL stands for and what's use of it? ACL stands for Access Control List, and we have two types of ACLs, blacklist and whitelist, if you remember. Whitelist to allow certain rule-based workings and blacklist to deny certain rule-based workings. They are used in order to restrict or allow someone from accessing something. Which of the policy work on health industry? HIPAA, SOX, GDPR, PCI DSS. I've talked a lot about them in the lectures, so I guess you might have already understand that HIPAA is the one who works for health industry. HIPAA stands for health information. So health industry itself tells you that HIPAA. When we talk about SOX and GDPR, PCI DSS, they have their different ones. They might overlap in some cases, but not in every case. Security architecture principles. Which level is the network layer in OSI model? Option A third, option B fourth, option C second, and option D fifth. Okay, if you have answered A third level, it is correct because network layer is only third level. Next, our data in network layer is transferred in the form of layers, packets, bytes, and bits. If you have answered C bytes, then you are correct. Is it? No, actually. When we are into the network layer, every time the data is considered into packets. They are formed packets and those data are distributed into packets. Make sure you always remember this packet term. It is definitely asked into interviews that they'll ask either in which layer data is in the form of packets, or they can ask you that which layer accounts data in the form of packets. Always remember this is for network layer. The next one is the network layer which contains hardware devices. For example, router bridges, bridges only, bridges and switches, routers, bridges and switches. If you have answered routers, bridges and switches, it's correct because all of the three devices works in the network layer. Next one is for what ICMP stands for. Either it could be Internet Coordinate Message Protocol, Internet Control Message Protocol, Interconnect Control Message Protocol, or Interconnect Coordinate Message Protocol. If you have answered Internet Control Message Access or Internet Control Message Protocol, it is correct. Next, in which of the following switching methods the message is divided into small packets? Message switching, packet switching, virtual switching, and none of these. Option is B, packet switching. When we do packet switching, the message is divided into smaller packets and then we form multiple packets of it. Each and every packets have their sequence number which are used to assemble them on the destination. Next, or which of the following switch methods create a point-to-point physical connection between two or more computers? Message switching, packet switching, circuit switching, and none of these. If you have answered C, packet switching, you are 100% correct. What do we mean here by this term packet switching? Packet switching is a concept of sending or distributing the data into multiple packets. But when we talk about point to point, it is done by the circuit switching, which is responsible for directing or routing the traffic to the desired destination. Next, what is the second name for this proxy server? Proxy tools, application proxy, application level gateway, or all of these. If you have said application level gateway, it is correct. That is the task same performed by the proxy server. That's why you can say they are same name or the same activity. They are two different names. Which of the following server allows LAN users to share data? Data server, point server, file server, and communication server. If we talk about sharing of data in the LAN, it is by the FTP, if you remember, file transfer protocol. That makes it very clear that the answer is C, file server. Next, which of the following addresses is 32-bit? MAC address, virtual address, source address, and destination address. Okay, if you have answered virtual address, you're 100% correct. Virtual addresses are in the form of 32-bit. Next, what is the size of the UDP header? 8 bytes, 16 bytes, 20 bytes, and 64 bytes. By the UDP header, I mean the UDP header in the UDP protocol datagram, the packet that is being sent from one source to the one destination. It is of 8 bytes. A is the correct answer. Next, which of the following protocols is the connectionless protocol? UDP, TCP, IP, or all of these are connectionless protocols? If you have answered UDP, you are 100% correct because UDP doesn't include any kind of connection establishment, whereas all the others are connection driven protocols. Next, difference between mesh and bus topology. What is mesh topology? In mesh topology, all the devices are connected to each other directly. In bus topology, we create a central bus path and then all the devices are connected to that central bus. Next, what is the difference between stateful and stateless inspection of firewall? When we talk about stateful inspection, in this we talk in a particular state inspection. When we talk about stateless inspection, it doesn't mean what how many states it's changed. We talk about the current states in general. Okay. Next one is difference between IDS and IPS. Again, IDS is only what do we say defensive measure, whereas IPS is preventive measure. IPS stands for intrusion prevention system, which performs certain activities as well as informs the responsible person for it. The series of steps that IPS will perform are in order to protect the device or in order to prevent the attack from spreading or occurring. Whereas IDP, they do not perform any operation or action. All they do is they inform the responsible guy who is responsible for that kind of attack. Next, what is sniffing? Sniffing, just like a dog sniffs something to identify it, to know more about it. Similarly, an attacker tries to, or sometimes IT administrators, what they do, or the network administrators, they sniff the network in order to understand what kind of data is traveling from your network to other network. Next is what is firewall evasion? Firewall evasion is a trick or a method that is followed by the attackers in order to evade any firewall. What do I mean by evading a firewall? There are some rules and regulations that firewalls possess. What kind of data they will allow, what kind of data they won't allow, what kind of data packets are allowed, what kind of data packets are not allowed. In order to evade that firewall, we use firewall evasion topic. Next, what is POD attack? POD is nothing other than DOS attack, where POD stands for ping of death attack, where one device keeps on pinging to the other device till the other device is exhausted. Next, what is SQLI? SQLI stands for SQL injection. That is a very severe vulnerability. Also, it is ranked among the top 10 OS web vulnerabilities. They are responsible for even compromising the entire system data, database servers, database data, as well as sometimes they lead to remote code execution and complete server overtaking. Next, name two major differences between DOS and DDoS attack. In DOS attack, we do not have any networks of multiple devices. Only single device is used. In DDoS, multiple devices are used into a network, and those are handled by command center. Again, the DOS, it is less reactive, and nowadays it is completely outdated. Whereas DDoS, if we do it by correct measures, correct steps, it is somewhat still working in the IT industry. Name at least 3 ways to perform DOS. You have to name the tools. First one that we discussed was LOIC, second HOIC, and third was HPing 3. Cryptography fundamentals. What is cryptography? To understand what exactly cryptography is, you need to understand what is happening inside cryptography. Cryptography is an art to hide or to conceal data or to manipulate data in such a manner that only receiver and sender are aware of what is inside the data. Or you can say that in the process of converting plain text into ciphertext as well as ciphertext into plain text is known as cryptography by some means of function and key application. Now, for that matter of fact, we need to also understand uh, why cryptography. So, cryptography is used for two main things. First is you need to understand cryptography for integrity, confidentiality. Now we talk about integrity and confidentiality as its pillar of cryptography. We can say that by you can say concealing the data using the steganography, which is a part of cryptography. We hide data, we conceal it to make it not readable or legible by others. They know that something is traveling, but they don't know what is traveling. And then next is integrity. By integrity, I mean by applying various mechanisms. We keep the data's completeness by the use of hashing and other algorithms. Next is what exactly are encryption and decryption. You can understand it as when you have to answer to an interview, you have to answer it as simple as you can. For example, you have a data A or a plain text P which is converted into ciphertext C or an encrypted text. Now, this plain text is readable to everyone, whereas this ciphertext is not readable to anyone. This may be one-side process or a reversible process. If it is reversible, you have a function to decrypt it back to normal plain text from the ciphertext. Then, what is goal of cryptography? As I already talked about, the goal of cryptography is to maintain confidentiality and integrity of a communication system. Next, what is the difference between a private key and a public key? Now, this is quite important and it is based on your understanding how you're going to answer. If you are going to ask me, I'm going to answer it as simple as private key is something that you cannot tell to everyone or share with everyone. It is meant to be kept confidential as well as limited to the owner itself. While public key is something that is distributed widely to everyone so that they may decrypt the data we want to share with them. In order to encrypt anything, my private key would be used, and in order to decrypt it, that public key would be used. And if someone has to send me something, it would be encrypted by that public key, and it would be decrypted by my device by using my private. What are the symmetric and asymmetric key systems now? I'm not talking about cryptography, I'm talking about key systems. Okay. To understand this, you need to understand what is symmetric and asymmetric cryptography. Recall that once. So in symmetric, we used to keep the encryption and decryption key same, but in asymmetric, we used to differ the encryption and decryption key. Exactly same as in the key systems. In symmetric key system, we have one key, and that is known to receiver and sender. Whereas in asymmetric key, there are two keys. One, which is known to the sender or the guy who is encrypting, and other to everyone whosoever wants to decrypt it. Next, what is polyalphabetic encryption? Polyalphabetic encryption is process or a function or a method of encryption in which we do not depend on one alphabet for the output. For example, if X always yields A, then it is monoalphabetic encryption. But what happens if X can yield A as well as B, C, D? It could yield any other alphabets too. That is known as polyalphabetic encryption. Next is what is block cipher. Block cipher is a mechanism in which we do not keep data one by one. Unlike the stream cipher, we create blocks of data of a fixed length and then we encrypt those blocks. Now, what is cipher block chaining? AES and SDS are some examples of cipher block chaining. What happens in this is um, a particular block is processed with the key and the encryption function. Further, what the output is, it is provided as an input to the other blocks. And the same thing goes on. For example, block A has been encrypted, so some part of A would be working as a feedback for B, as a key for B, block B, and then block B's output would make some feedback for C, and similar thing will go on. Next is what is PKI, public key infrastructure. You can basically understand it as an organization or a repository which accounts for all the public keys and their management, including how long they are going to be in work, when they will expire, their certificates, and owner, everything regarding those certificates are stored into PKI. Next question is an asymmetric key or public key cipher uses how many keys? The answer is it uses two key system. Next is a straight permutation cipher or a straight P box has same number of output as. So you need to answer that if there is a straight permutation cipher or a straight P box, okay, has the same number of input. So what would be the number of that input? It would be as same as the number of outputs. Next question is we use term to transforming message to make them. So why is cryptography used in short? Secure and immune to change, secure and immune to idle, secure and immune to attacks, secure and immune to defend. If you have answered secure and immune to attacks, you are correct. All time we do this cryptography to secure our data. The man in the middle attack can endanger the security of the Diffie-Hellman method if two parties are not. We are talking about drawback of Diffie-Hellman method. Okay, if two parties are not authenticated, not joined, not submit, or not separated. So the answer is not authenticated. If two devices are not authenticated, it can endanger the security of Diffie-Hellman. Or the shift cipher is sometimes referred to as Caesar cipher, shift cipher, and ciphertext. Shift cipher I've already written, so it's not the answer, you know. So the other three are left. Cipher and ciphertext is something that you can call in general to every type of encryption. So the answer left with you is Caesar cipher. I mentioned Caesar cipher here is it is one of the oldest encryption mechanisms. Hence, shift cipher is sometimes called as Caesar cipher because concept of both is same. Whereas Caesar cipher is just a part of shift cipher.
Security of networks, system, application, and data.
You are connected to conduct a forensic analysis of the computer. What should you do first? Analyze the files, backup the system, scan for viruses, make changes to operating system. We will be using eliminative method so that you can easily understand it. First is analyze the file. Let us suppose you are directly analyzing the file and by mistake you cause some changes into the file. The entire file system is corrupted or changed and you cannot get the actual content what those files were having. Scan for viruses. You cannot do that because if you're scanning for virus, you can possibly make multiple changes into the files. And if there is some potential virus, it may be quarantined or deleted. Next, make changes to operating system. That is the this is the completely fun, or what there is a fun fact that you cannot make any changes to the operating system before you like start proper creating a backup and other things. Because if you make any change to the operating system, that means you are merely changing each and every configuration, settings, everything you are going to change for that particular device. So the only option left with us is backup the system. I'll tell you why backup the system is most important because let us suppose you got a drive, a hard disk to check for the forensic analysis. Before doing anything, you should just create another similar image of the hard disk on some different device and compare those devices with their hash values and check if the both hash values are same or not. If same, that means both the hard disk have exactly same data. Now you can work on the copied one. Do anything on the original copy in order to preserve the data and the evidences. After using Nmap to do a port scan of your server, you find that several ports are open. Which of the following should you do next? You're going to leave the ports and monitor them for malicious attacks. Second, run the port scan again. Third, close all the ports. Fourth, examine the services and or processes that use those ports. Okay, we will go one by one on each. First one is leave the ports open and monitor them for malicious attacks. So not considering this as a point, it is completely a point to laugh over, because see, if you are leaving someone to attack yourself and then you are going to monitor it and work accordingly, this is the worst thing that you can do for your company, because if there is some malicious attack, it will definitely cause some damage to your organization. Some operations will be hindered, and in that case you will face some uh, disadvantage, or in some cases this attacks may go, what do we say, uh, unnoticed. In that case it may be very inappropriate for long run. The first option is completely wrong. Second, run the port scan again. Now if you get the several ports open, there is no need to run that scan again until unless you make some operation onto it, because if the port was open, it will still be open because you haven't done anything. Close all ports. Now, if you are going to close all the ports, you are going to defy or deny all the accesses to the outside world. There will be no communication from your device to other devices. In the other words, you can understand it as you are closing all the doors and windows of your house and you want to go out, which is completely infeasible to do. So the last option which is left and is correct is examine the services and processes that use those ports. Because see, I'll give you a real example, real life example. Okay, you can understand it as you are the physical administrator of your organization. There are multiple doors and entry points. There are multiple guards and cameras set there to monitor those places, and each of the department is working on a different project or different part of the particular project or a product. So in that case, what processes are running there, and whether those ports, those gates are ought to be left open or they should be closed. It should be decided by you based on the working that is going inside that department. Similarly, in the computer world or the computer system, think it as a computer system as a whole, and then you will see what processes and services are running on a particular port. You will have to examine those ports and services. You will see whether these are required for your service, your operations or not. If they are generally required for your working, in that case, what you can do is you can keep them running, but you can imply some security mechanisms. But if those processes and services are useless, you just need to stop those services and processes and close those ports. Next, which of the following is a vulnerability assessment tool? This is John the Ripper, Cain and Abel, Aircrack NG. We'll just go from bottom to top. Aircrack NG is a password cracking tool. It is not a vulnerability assessment tool. It is part of penetration testing tool. Because in this case, you are going to crack some wireless passwords, or you are going to crack some hashes, and comparing it with their uh, database hash. Similarly, Cain and Abel and John the Ripper are also password cracking tools. In this case, these are not the vulnerability assessment tool, but Nessus is a vulnerability assessment tool, and it is an automated vulnerability assessment tool at the very moment. What you can do is you can start a scan for a target, and it is going to provide you with the entire vulnerability assessment report that would be around of 200 pages, something like that, if you're going to see the full report, and then you are going to work accordingly. Next, dash is a weakness that can be exploited by attackers. First, system with virus. Second, system with firewall. System with vulnerabilities. And system with a strong password. But talking about the first point, system with virus. If there is a virus, that means it has already been exploited. You don't need to exploit it anymore because the virus has reached the device. It will cause some harm to the system. Second is system without firewall. If you don't have firewall, you may or may not be attacked. It depends upon the outsider also. Next is system with vulnerabilities. System with vulnerabilities is the correct answer, because if a system has any vulnerability, it doesn't matter you have firewall or not, doesn't matter you are monitoring it or not. If it has vulnerability, it can be exploited by the attackers. Let's talk about the last one also. System with a strong password. See, you cannot do anything uh, with with this content. If system is there, it is secure and it is having strong password, then the chances of exploitation is quite low. and in that particular case, it may be equals to 0. So you cannot exploit a particular device that is secured as well as having strong password. Next, dash is the sum of all the possible points in software or system where unauthorized access can enter as well as extract data from the system. Attack vendor, attack surface, attack point, and attack arena. Attack vectors are the points or the possibility of connecting dots which can lead you to a successful access or a possible point to in a system or a software, but these are not for sure because these are just points. Whereas attack surface is including all the attack vectors. It will have enumerated all the attacks possible with the points on which these attacks are possible. So the correct answer is attack surface. Whereas the attack point is a particular point on which an attack is possible. But there may be more than one point available in a software or a system. Attack arena is just a concept in which um, there is a point on which attack is possible as well as security measure is also implemented. And at that point, when an attack is carried out, that place is known as attack arena. Next, dash is the cyclic practice for identifying and classifying and then solving the vulnerabilities in the system. Bug protection, bug bounty, vulnerability measurement, and vulnerability management. Bug protection is a step to reduce or mitigate any flaw that a code or a working operation has. Bug bounty is a program that a company launches for everyone outside their company also, so that everyone can try testing on them, and if they found something they can report it to the company. In exchange, company is going to either pay them, provide them some swags can include anything like stickers, backpacks, water bottles, mugs, dresses, it could be anything, t-shirts, hoodies, or they may just provide LOR or LOC. LOR is letter of recommendation and LOC is letter of certification. There are some big companies which host good bug bounties such as Facebook, Google, Microsoft, Amazon. These are some good paying companies. Whereas you can check all the list of these companies on Integrity. You can check them on HackerOne. You can check them on Bugcrowd too, and other related platforms that you want to check are available. For example, Fire Bounty and other. Vulnerability measurement is a technique through which we check what is the level of a particular vulnerability, what is the criticality of vulnerability. Further, the last option is vulnerability management, and it is also the correct answer because this is the only thing which is responsible for cyclic practice of identifying and classifying and then solving the vulnerabilities in the system. Risk and vulnerabilities are the same thing. Now, I've been shouting this loud from the first lecture that risk, vulnerability, and threat are three different things that go hand in hand. If one is available, all the other two would be available too. In that particular case, the answer is false. Next, a and dash is a piece of software or a segment of a command that usually takes advantage of a bug to cause unintended actions and behaviors. Malware, Trojan, worms, exploit. Now you have to tell what is a particular piece of software, what is that thing that takes advantage of a bug or a vulnerability to cause unintended action and behaviors. Malware could be a part because malware also does the same thing. But the one thing that is like opposing the point is malwares doesn't depend on the bug. Okay, they are independent of the bugs. Next, Trojan. Trojans are not responsible for any unintended actions or behaviors. They may take advantage by carrying other malicious viruses, worms, or any exploit payloads along with them. Worms, yes, worms are able to take uh, unintended actions and behaviors, but they cannot take advantage of any bug. So the last option is exploit, which is correct also. Why exploit? because exploits are bug specific or vulnerability specific. These are designed to exploit those vulnerabilities and cause some unintended actions and behaviors as per the attacker's choice. Next question is, there are dash types of exploit. How many types of exploits are there? Okay. In that particular case, 3, 2, 5, 4. The answer is 2. There are two types of exploits, remote exploits and local exploits. We will talk them in the next question. Dash type of exploit requires accessing to any vulnerable system for enhancing privilege for an attacker to run the exploit. Okay, as I talked, there are only two types of exploit, A and B. So C and D are already cut because C and D are not type of any exploit. So you have to choose between A and B. There is an exploit. If we talk about local exploit, they need the access to the particular machine from the same network. Okay. If we talk about remote exploits, these exploits can be run throughout the globe. I might be sitting in India and I can exploit you. You are sitting in the UK, USA, anywhere around the globe. I don't need any common network. The internet would be enough. So what could be the perfect answer for this question? Local exploit. Remote exploit is a type of exploit acts over any network to the exploit on security vulnerability. That is true. Next, a zero-day vulnerability is a type of vulnerability known to the creator or vendor of the system or software. The answer is true, because if there is a zero-day vulnerability, that means it has been found recently and is worldwide available, or the widely available vulnerability in the particular product or the company's service that company is unaware of. Further, it comes to their knowledge and they design some patch for that. Next, ISMS is abbreviated as Information Server Management System, Information Security Management Software, Internet Server Management System, Information Security Management System. The answer is B, Information Security Management System. Next, which of the following persons is ultimately in charge of deciding how much residual risk there will be? CSO or Chief Security Officer, Senior Management, Security Administrator, Disaster Recovery Plan Coordinator. The answer is Senior Management, because they are the one who is responsible for telling what is the amount of residual risk that should be accepted. Next, which of the following is a detective control or detective security control? Bollard, tape backup, firewall, CCTV. So I'm not talking about any proactive, preventive, similar type of security control. I'm talking about detective. And CCTV, as we all know, it only works on detecting. It only detects, it only monitors, but it doesn't do anything else. Hence, the answer is CCTV. Next, which of the following is management control? Least privilege implementation, baseline configuration development, written security policy, and session logs. If we talk about least privilege implementation, this is the role of security architect. If we talk about baseline configuration development, that is also the role of security architect. But when we talk about writing security policies, this is something that is required to be done by the management only. If we talk about session logs, it is done by the security administrator. Next, you are implementing a new enterprise database server. After you evaluate the product with various vulnerability scans, you determine that the product is not a threat in or of itself, but it has the potential to introduce new vulnerabilities to your network. Which assessment should you now take into consideration while you continue to reevaluate the database server? Risk assessment, code assessment, vulnerability assessment, and threat assessment. The answer is C, vulnerability assessment. Next, why should penetration testing only be done during controlled conditions? Because vulnerability scanners can cause network flooding, because penetration testing actively tests security controls and can cause system instability, because white box penetration testing cannot find zero-day attacks, because penetration testing passively tests security controls and cause system instability. The correct answer is B, Why B is the correct answer? Because when we do PT, we do active testing as well as it can cause system instability, that is for sure. Next, what is the difference between a VA and a PT? How they differ from bug bounty experts? In vulnerability assessment, we try to find all the associated vulnerabilities. But in PT or penetration testing, we try to penetrate into network or a system and attain access over it. Further, if we talk about bug bounty experts, those are the people who do not have the network access. They are responsible for having VA over the web apps that are available. If we talk about payments, these payments are quite high in bug bounty, whereas VAPT are based on the particular project or the enroll or on roll basis. Next is virtualization. We we have to understand the concept of sandboxing before virtualization. Sandboxing is separating an environment and running something inside it, like a container. Similarly, virtualization is a phenomena in which we create a virtual environment of the desired asset, for example, operating system, or it could be any of the application environment, or maybe anything else. If we talk about why do we need testing in organization, then you will need to explain that there are multiple vulnerabilities that can be exploited by the attackers. In order to mitigate them, we need testing in organization so that we can save our reputational or brand reputation. We were talking about virtualization. This is something that is responsible for cloud and cloud security. If we talk about cloud, it is something that has changed the technology world or the industry completely from top to bottom. Please inspect more about virtualization and learn more. Further, why should we hire you? This is the best question that someone asks. You are going to tell your importance and your learnings that you have made so far. They do not need any flattering answer from you. You have to answer in simple words and as less words as possible. For example, you can say them that, sir, I have been working on these tools from quite a long time. I have taken these sessions from the MindMajix for the cybersecurity training, and I have their certification successfully completed. I am also responsible for doing VAPT on multiple VMs and CTFs that I have done on my own devices, as well as I can share you their walkthroughs that were created by me. That's it. You don't need to boast yourself or anything else. You just need to give the exact answer, including your certificates and internships or any work experience that you have. Next, how can we rank a score or score a vulnerability? It is done based on the VMS, Vulnerability Management System, and Vulnerability Scoring System. This can be found on the MITRE website, or you can find them on any multiple available platforms on the internet, such as GitHub and HackerOne. Next, what is CVE? CVE refers to a common vulnerability exposure number that is given to any zero-day vulnerability which is found and widely available. Next, we have to explain few terms: zero trust, least privilege, need to know, and job rotation. First of all, zero trust. In this, what we do is we do not trust anyone for giving them any rights. Okay, they will be provided with only those rights that are very, very important for their working. Unless and until they won't be able to carry out their task. Next, least privilege. In this, we give similar rights that is required to them. We do not provide any extra rights to them. Same thing is need to know, that we will be informing anyone only those things that they need in order to carry their day-to-day operation. Now, what is the difference between zero trust, least privilege, and need to know? All the three things are same. No. Zero trust is first when you're creating the access level or anything, you just give them zero. There is no responsibility. There is no uh, privilege. Nothing. You have given 000. There is nothing. They don't have access to anything. Nothing. Now, based on every request, if they need access to a file XYZ, then you will give only read access to XYZ file to them. If they need write access, then you will be giving write access to that file. That means you are creating a zero trust, that you don't trust anyone. You're going to give them permission only for what they need to do their day-to-day working. In case of least privilege, as I told you, in this you create a baseline and accordingly then you work on it. Similar for the need to know, what you do is you first mark up what is required to be known to them, and then you share those details with them. If we talk about job rotation, it is something that every company follows. They keep multiple profiles or multiple people on the same profile in order to switch their daily working. For example, if someone is working in the morning shift, there would be someone else who would be working in the night shift in the same role. Or maybe there would be a guy who is working on Monday, Wednesday, and Saturday on a particular thing, on a particular profile, and there would be the other guy who would be working on Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday on the same profile. In order to, if a single guy is doing something wrong, the other guy can find it. Or if they are working one after other, both will try to give their best in order not to be replaced or compared. The incident response. What are the roles and responsibilities of an incident responder? See, incident responders are the first guys or the first persons who are going to handle any security incident. For example, on the airports, if someone is caught doing something illegal, the first responders are who? The guards available there on the duty. Similarly, these incident responders are the first guy who are going to take some action based on that incident. The responsibility is to protect the organization, just like the guards to protect the airport and the peoples. Similarly, the incident responder have to protect the infrastructure of the organization as well as the valuable assets, people, everything. Also, the duty of the incident responder includes making of security policies, protocols, reports to avoid potential security breach, and proper documentation of what they did. Next, what type of security breaches you may encounter as an incident responder? See, this is a good question, and you can not answer everything into this, but what you can do is you can try to categorize it into specific, not specific, in generalized manner, and try to cover as much as possible. For example, if we talk about security breaches that I could encounter as an incident responder, could involve database security breach, server security breach, server takeover, domain takeover, subdomain enumeration, and their subdomain takeover, tailgating, or any physical security. In short, you can say that I have to manage physical security, operational security, system security, server security, as well as information security. Next, what document do you need to restore a system that has failed DRP? Is the correct answer. Okay. Why I wrote the correct answer as DRP? Because see, if we talk about any kind of failure or if there is some damage to the organization because of some natural calamity or could be anything, and subsystem has failed, now you have to restore it to the normal plane. It falls under the disaster recovery plan. Okay, all these are part of disasters, as I already informed you in the lectures. Next, what is CM? I don't think I need to tell you the full form, although for those who haven't paid much focus in the previous lectures, I'll explain what is CM. CM is an advanced threat detection and incident responses that helps an organization to take quick preventive actions against possible secure attacks. It also provides you with the dashboard and real-time monitoring of the network and analysis of the security event. CM stands for Security Information and Event Management. And again, this is very specific uh, responsibility that should be given to the only certified guys. Uh, it involves working with some high or modern tools, high complexity tools such as QRadar, Splunk, and other tools. What is incident trigger? See, if we talk about an incident trigger, you can understand that whenever an event occurs and it signals the possibility of a cyber threat. Okay, like there is no security breach or something like that, but there is an event. We know only that there is an event, and and this event looks like that it could be a possible cyber threat. That is known as incident trigger. When this incident triggers are generated, an incident responder must be aware that an attack is in progress. Next, what steps would you take after a cybersecurity incident occurs? There are just four common steps that you need to make after a cybersecurity incident: identification, triage and analysis, containment, post incident activity. Why I mentioned just four? See, it involves everything, it is a generalized answer. If we talk identification, it will identify what are the requirements to recover it, what is the problem that has happened, what is the security incident, and what is the source of the security breach, as well as reporting it to the higher authorities. Next, in triage and analysis, it will cover the verification, the data from the multiple sources, as well as analyzing it further to find any indicators of the compromises. Next, containment. It is going to inform you about the complete and the further damage that this incident has made to your system. Final post-incident activity is the platform or is the phase in which you are going to take steps that is required to get back to the normal again, and the documentation of all those steps in order to store them for future audit as well as understanding. Next, how to detect whether a file has changed in the system or not. Don't give me like, or don't give us like any random answers. The simple and very straightforward answer to this question is by hashing algorithms. You can check the hashes generated by this file before and after, and you will, after comparing those hashes, if they are same, there has been no modification, and if their hashes are changed, that means there has been some modification. For example, you can make MD5 some hashes or AES hash, RSA hash, whatever hash you like to do. Next, what is APT and how to handle them? Understanding from the top that these APTs are nothing but the attack in which attacker can bypass an organization's security posture as well as remain undetected in the systems or network of the organization. So if we talk about APTs, so they are just basically a combination of obfuscation and persistence and what do we say, new techniques and tricks to exploit something, 0 days, something like that. Okay, you can prevent them by establishing the proper access and administration control. And if we perform regular VAPT tests and the employee awareness campaigns, we can mitigate this risk too. We cannot completely uh, extinct this risk, but we can mitigate them to a good level. Now, for understanding the APTs, if they are present into a system or not, we will always require some dedicated incident responders. Okay, because they are skilled with high threat hunting, and they are they are highly skilled with threat hunting. Like they could be a bug bounty experts before coming to this incident response, or maybe they could be good at VAPT stuff. Next is to detect malicious emails. What steps would you take to examine the email originating IP address? There are four steps that you need to follow. First, you need to search the IP address in whos database. After getting the IP address of the sender from the header of the received mail, and then you have to open email to trace its header, that what is the header of the email, and then now searching the geographical address of the sender in the whos database and getting to the exact place, the coordinates. Next, interview can ask you that are you a team player or prefer to work alone? If you're applying for an incident responder profile, you should not think of anything else except being a team player, because incident response cannot be handled all alone. You need a proper team working. Hence, you have to answer that, sir, I like to, sir or ma'am, whatever um, the interviewer is respective to that. I am a team player and I like to lead my team, as I have performed this action in the past. I have worked at this profile in the past at this place. For references, you can share the projects that you have completed in the group, and you have given a good support into that. Next, why do you want to work as an incident responder? Now you can answer it by multiple things, by mentioning your experiences, certifications, learnings, and other things. As well as you can include that, sir, I like to play with challenges a lot. And incident responder is a profile that has multiple challenges occurring every day. And this is something that can help me to learn and grow very much. Next, how would you handle an outage on operation critical systems such as data links between sites? You have to answer it in very small and easy way, that the first thing to check is that the backup link is fully functional and the business operations are working as expected. Now, letting them know that you have multiple systems that need to communicate and that all must be checked if they are working well. So what you have to do is you have to make the business as usual for your applications and services using those servers. Once the extent of this affected services impact has been quickly assessed, you can proceed with the actual investigation and incident response in order to get those services back up and running. Always mention that you would test the link first, okay, and then check that the hardware is responding and that the line services were active. If it is found to be hardware related, then the correct team would be dispatched as necessary. If the service provider is offline, then you would coordinate with them to resolve the issue as quickly as possible. Next, can computer forensics also be used in civil proceedings? That if there is a case scenario whose hearing is going on in the courts or jurisdictions of the jury members, can you present this computer forensics? Yes, no, can be yes, cannot say. So the answer is yes. If which of the following techniques are used during computer forensics investigation? Cross drive analysis, live analysis, and deleted files analysis. All of the above. The correct answer is all of the above, because we need to investigate the particular file in each and every particular manner that can lead us to some conclusion. Next, how many C's are in their computer forensics? I'm not talking about the word computer forensics. You will say that, okay, there is one, two C. It's not like that. I'm talking about the C's is confidence, credibility, and the cost. So there are three C's: confidence, credibility, cost. Next, you are supposed to maintain three types of records. Which answer is not a record? Chain of custody, documentation of the crime scene, searching for the crime scene, document your actions. The correct answer is searching for the crime scene, because you don't need to make a proper record of how you made the search at the crime scene, but you have to make the records for all the other things mentioned. Next, what is the memory in which volatile data resides in? Registers, cache, RAM, all of the above. The answer is all of the above, because volatile memory is a memory in which the data which is stored is known as volatile data, and this volatile data is very easily changed as soon as the uh, phase of the computer changes or any operation of the computer changes. Even if the power source has been taken off from the device, the data of this are completely reset. Next, deleted files is a common technique used in computer forensics, is the recovery of deleted files. True, false, can be true, false. Cannot say. So the correct answer is true, because in this we try to find all the deleted files in the particular drive. These files are not completely deleted when you delete them. They just remain unindexed into the same hard disk or the hardware or the space of your hard disk, these are not deleted. They can be recovered by multiple, like there are tons of ways in which you can recover them. But there is one thing that you need to be worried of: the wiping. If the complete wiping of the data has been performed, you cannot get back the data again. Next, stages or steps of a business continuity plan (BCP) include: get started and identify business requirements, determine recovery speed and deal with the gaps, maintain the program, all of the above. If we talk about business continuity plan, this will integrate of all of the present options, hence the D is correct, all of the above. The critical time period is the window of time in which business processing must be resumed before suffering significant unrecoverable loss. True or false? The answer is true. Security implications and adoption of evolving technology. Which one of the following statements does not accurately describe an APT? First, they focus on specific high-value targets. Second, they typically work alone to reduce the likelihood of discovery. Third, they often exploit previously undisclosed vulnerability. And last option is they commonly have access to significant financial resources. The correct answer is D. They do not have very common access to, like, this is not very common to have access to financial resources, but others are true. Next, what is false positive rate and how do you measure it? Now, this if we talk about what is false positive rate first, okay. In order to find false positive rate of a particular solution, we have to count the number of false positives it provides per positive outputs. Okay, like how many positive response were mentioned by it, and how many positive responses were mentioned by it. That okay, that it has mentioned like 50 security incidents, and out of those, only 10 were the real security incidents. Hence, the rate of false positive is 4. That on every one or every single real security incident report, it provides 4 false positives. That is enough. Like you can check them. It's not very bad. Which type of technologies does APT solution leverage? Okay, so if we talk about this one, if we talk about APT solutions, it could be using application containerization, Dockers, sandboxing, static URL inspection, static code inspection, code analysis, input output analysis, URL analysis, dynamic URL analysis, and there are tons of other ways that we can use. What country was the primary target of Stuxnet? This is a good question. The Stuxnet was one of the APTs. If I remember well, Iran was the country which was highly targeted by this Stuxnet. Next, explain sensitive data leakage. What do you understand by sensitive data leakage? You have to answer it in very simple word that any data which isn't intended to be shared with anyone uh, who is not allowed or given the permission to have a look over it, and if they find that, it is known as sensitive data leakage. It can be either by data cyber breach, database server breach, or maybe by unauthorized access. Next, what is unsafe sensitive data transmission? This includes sharing of any confidential data from one end to other end without any encryption or any security mechanism. If we talk about this safe sensitive data transmission, it will always include end-to-end encryption and maybe tunnel to share that data, as well as sharing it into the encrypted form. Next, what are legacy devices and what are the associated risks with it? If we talk about legacy devices, these are nothing, these are the old generation devices which were used earlier. They do not support very much of the security mechanisms. They do not support the uh, modern security measures like high encryptions. They do not support WPA2, 3 type of connections. These are the old devices, and if we talk about the risk associated with them, Again, the same answer. The incompatibility with the modern security measures is the associated risk. And if it is exploited and it is in the network, it can lead to the exploitation of other devices in the network too. Next question is why BYOD? If we talk about company's perspective for good as well as bad of BYOD, if we talk about goods or events of BYOD, any employee can work anytime during the day or the night, in the any hour of the day, he can work on any task. Second, they have ready to go access. They can even work from home very easily. But if we talk about drawbacks, that includes the expansion of the threat landscape. They can be part of APTs, like there is a threat, there is a APT attack through that device. They can lead to introduction of any malware into the network by these devices, which came into the device when the device was not in the network, and can also lead to the unauthorized access. Next, why cloud computing is a risk. If we talk about cloud computing as a risk, see, you need to understand that your data is kept to someone else's location, and all you can do is you can see that data, you can access it, you can retrieve and save more data, you can make some modifications, alterations into that, but it is not into your own hands. The data is not in your hands. Hence, if the database server is breached, that or the cloud center is breached, it can lead to the access of your data too. Hence, it is always a risk. Next, why we need cloud computing? If it is having so much of risk associated, why do we need it? There are tons of reasons why we need cloud computing. To make it a CIA full, like available everywhere, maintain integrity and availability, and make it confidential. Second, to reduce the requirement for the computation power, because virtualization is something that has given cloud computing another level. You can just take 32 GB RAM device via VNC or uh, any kind of remote protocols, and then you can use them just having 2 GB of RAM in your own device. Third, it provides scalability. You can increase and reduce the required computation based on your requirement. Fourth, it can be accessed throughout the globe if they have the correct credentials along with them. And there are tons of other answers that you can keep on writing, and cloud computing advantages are not going to end. But yes, it is similar with the risk. Thank you.